Hey, this is Gina Grad.
Hi, this is Teresa Strasser.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Errico.
Hey there. This is Casey Cavalier.
I'm Rocky Rose.
And you are listening to The Jay Franze Show.
Lucky you.
Welcome to The Jay Franze Show, a behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franze.
Well, hey there, and welcome to the show. I am Jay Franze, and this is your backstage pass to the entertainment industry. This week, we get to talk with a filmmaker. We get to talk with John Wayne S. III. We'll talk to him about how his early days as a production assistant has shaped his career as a filmmaker, how he uses product placement in his films, and we'll discuss how he commissions music for his films. Now, John is a great talent, and I can't wait to talk with him tonight. So if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranze.com. Now, let's get started. John, sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me on your platform. I'm always humbled when people do that.
Sir, it is my absolute pleasure. I have so many things I want to talk to you about tonight, so I can't thank you enough for being here with us.
Thank you, sir. I look forward to it. I hope I can give you what you want.
Well, we'll see about that. All right, well, let's just jump in. How did your early days as a production assistant shape your career as a filmmaker?
Well, the thing about it is that I wasn't trying to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to focus on geriatric medicine. And the summer before I had to pick a medical school, this production manager called me and said I left a message on an answering machine, which always dates me, and saying that I was interested in working on an indie film. And I said, well, at the time, I was a manager of the parking garage and I had just lost my job. And so it was for a second assistant director on the indie film. And I said, this sounds interesting. I said, okay, I'll go and talk to him. I came there with like a suit and tie on. I was all dressed, ready to go. In about 5 minutes, he realized I couldn't do nothing because I knew nothing about film. And so she calls me back a week later and said, I can't give you that job, but we do have a production assistant in the art department. Would you be interested in it? She said we were shooting 16 days a week, 6 weeks straight, and the pay was $50 a week. And I said, yes, I'll do it. And ironically enough, just the way the universe works, it was director George Tillman's first film out of film school. I didn't know him from anybody else. I was just, doing something. And George went on to do Notorious, Men of Honor, all the barbershop movies. So he's going to have a very successful career. But at the time, this is his first film called Scenes for the Soul. The movie got picked up by George Mahendry's company a little bit after that. They bought it from it, and they went out of business. After that, he went to do Soul Food and some other stuff. And so I started working with them on some stuff and eventually partnered with another guy. And we started doing music videos in Chicago.
Oh, that's very cool. Before we get to the music videos, though, what was it like, when you go to this movie set for the first time without any experience? And, you don't have any idea even what to expect. So what was that like for you?
I'm the kind of person who kind of observes and tries to, do the things that needs to get done without anybody asking me to do it. We're in the middle of summer. I'm carrying a jug of water with cups and giving everybody water. And I'm trying to find things to do because I was intrigued by it. I didn't know exactly everything I was doing, but I wanted to figure it out. And I was doing a music video for this artist. He was a big rap artist at the time named MC8. It was like the biggest video we had done. I was just producing at the time. And I'm sitting in the van doing paperwork. And I remembered when I was in third grade, we had this assembly program where, they don't do too much for kids now, but back in the day, pick a popular song and everybody say what you want to do when you grow up. And so our song was People Make the World Go Round. And my mother had bought me like this Indiana Jones hat and I had like a slate. And so when they got to me, I said, I want to be a film producer. Had no idea what that was. This is like in third, fourth grade. And I remember sitting in that van where I was doing the paperwork. I remembered I said I wanted to do that. And at that moment, I realized this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So my path from being a production assistant, eventually producing everything, is probably something that was already written in the stars for me. I just didn't see it. And the crazy thing about it is that although I wanted to be a doctor, I don't do well with blood and people being in pain. So I don't know why I thought that was going to be a good idea.
I'm with you. I can't watch anybody get a shot.
Yeah.
No, not my thing. So you mentioned the music videos. So how is making a music video different than actually making the movie?
Making a music video, the biggest difference is the commitment. When you direct something, it's a very emotional connection. So you have to live with this movie, if you do a movie, for a long period of time. You have to live with it. I shot a movie a couple of years ago that's coming out on March the 12th. And you go through the process, you're working with the actors for a couple of weeks. I see those people every single day. Every single day. It's the endurance that you need to do a feature. Everybody does not have the endurance. Some guys are very good at doing music videos. But doing a feature is it's a more emotional connection that you have to really take. Being there for the actors, all the actors, multiple actors, depending on how big your movie is, understanding what everybody needs and be able to give them thing. That's a lot. That is a lot. Doing a music video, if you mess up a little bit, nobody really cares. But doing a feature, people look at everything.
No, I could see that for sure. I've been involved in a few music videos myself. I've never been involved in a film. I mean, I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed watching people work. I grew up working in the music industry, so getting to see people work with cameras and the film crew and just how they do things was always interesting to me. So with that said, let's talk about Ebony Hustle. What can you tell me about that?
So Ebony Hustle, it's about an ex-stripper turned private investigator. So it's kind of like a modern day version of the Rockford Files. I really, honestly, when they came to me about doing this movie, I had to think of something that I think would make sense that people can gravitate to, because there's tons of movies out. Tons of movies that come out every single day. And I'm always honored when people look at my movie, because you take 90 minutes out to your 24 hours to actually look at it. And so I'm always humbled by that. When I look at the numbers, I'm like, who's all these people? Look at the movie. The movie has streamed about 8 million times since its release. So a lot of people have seen this movie, so I'm always encouraged by that. So the distributor came to me and said, hey, we want to do this movie. And we have to try to find a balance between what they were asking for and what we actually can do. And so that's how we came up with Ebony Hustle.
Well, I want to get into all of this stuff because I got a whole bunch of questions about it. But let's just start with the way you put some of the film together. For example, how big of a crew worked on the project?
So the first Ebony Hustle, I think we had about 20 to 25 crew plus the actors. So you're talking about 25, 30 people that worked on the film.
So how does the budget work? Where does the money come from?
So producing movies a variety of different ways. When I was younger and I had ideas about stuff that I felt like was the best thing in the world, and I would go and pitch this to people, and I couldn't understand why people wouldn't bite always to what I wanted to do, because I'm thinking it's the best thing. What I've learned is that it doesn't make a difference what I want. It's about what they're buying at that time. That's obviously, a straightforward path to how to get stuff financed and everything. But there are other paths. I mean, years ago, we used to take the script and give it to an agency. And the agency would kind of figure out basically who can afford to pay. We also do a lot of product placement. I do tons of product placement. During the pandemic, I wanted to be more intentional about how I approached that and what I did. So what I started to do is look for smaller, mid-sized companies, but they have very strong footholds into audiences that I only have so many social media followers. I couldn't get to everybody, but they have more. You get somebody 50, 75, 100,000 social media followers selling products. If I find a way to incorporate their product in the storylines, now I'm on their timeline and they're clicking, because this is an AVOD-based system, advertising-based. So I'm trying to get streams. I am trying to get people to click onto my movie and watch it. So the more eyes I can put on it and incorporate the product into the story seamlessly, that makes sense, to kind of make their product bigger and to also make what we're trying to do to a wider audience.
So I'm curious, are there any rules or regulations that you have to follow when putting a product into your film?
Well, the first thing you want to do, obviously, you want to make sure you get all the permissions to transfer that to whatever third party or distributor you're using for. Like when you see the big budget stuff, like I think about Transformers. So Transformers has a deal with Taco Bell. So they're fighting in front of the Taco Bell. Okay, that's great. But it's so like obvious that it's product placement. I try to do things like someone is hurt and they in pain. Like I have a vitamin company called Pro Black Health. So somebody in pain and exercise and they take vitamins. So it's already in the store. And so they're going to open up the vitamins. They're going to take it. It's a natural thing. It's not something I'm kind of forcing to do, or somebody's having lunch and they're drinking something. It's a natural thing to what they're doing. So they're drinking tea, soda, whatever the case may be. So I try to make it natural. There's not any necessary rules. It really depends on the company you're working with and what exactly they want to do. Their focus is their product. And so they're trying to get some things just don't work, so you have to be like, okay, like I know you want to do that, but there are times where I really like the brand and I try to commit to them working. And then when I actually did it, it didn't work out the way that I envisioned it because some things just don't work out that way, so I try to make adjustments. But as long as you try to stay true to the brand and what they're doing, there's really no rules one way or the other.
I just think it's fun. I can imagine somebody saying, I just want my billboard in the background of your scene.
Yeah.
But no, I was just curious if you had to sign contracts to do that, if there were any regulations with any organizations to put a product in, if you have to follow certain guidelines, that type of thing.
So streaming platforms don't necessarily want you to do infomercials. So don't, make it like
right.
They're in Walmart using all Walmart products with Walmart on their shirt. You turn into an infomercial. Unless the storyline, it's about Walmart. So you want to try to make it, seamless in it, that it kind of makes sense to the story to where you're like, oh. And so the other thing that we do when we have some product placement in the movie, we do what they call a follow campaign. So the person has to go and look at the movie to answer the question. They come back, they fill out a little form, we get their email address and all this, they put it in there and they get some free ice cream, whatever the case may be. So it's beneficial. The person can identify the product in the movie. We get to stream. Everybody's happy. Now we got some contact information about the person. So the next time that they're doing something, say, hey, remember Wilma was eating ice cream in that movie. Would you like a free coupon or would you like, this is where you can buy the product at.
I even remember in the movie there was a callback to one of your other movies. Mm-hmm. So it's not just product being placed in, it's also your own films being placed in the movie. The scene where they're talking about wanting to go to a movie and they reference going to see Red All Over.
Well, why not? Who's going to say that I can't do that? If I'm going to promote my universe of films and characters, then I'm going to try to do the most I possibly can. Because obviously I want people to be endeared to my brand and like the stuff that I do. Love it, like it, or whatever, but I would at least want them to watch it. And then if we're talking about a movie, why talk about some other movie I have no control over? Let's talk about the ones that I do want you to go watch.
No, makes perfect sense. So let's talk about the equipment a little bit. So you've got these 25 to 35 people that are working on your film. Where does the equipment come from?
Over the years, I've acquired a lot of equipment. So I do have quite a bit of equipment. I'm a big firm believer in trying to do things that I understand. I'm not a camera guy. I'm not a shooter like that. And so I have some DPs that I work with, particularly one DP, Jamaz Hampton. He's done a lot of shooting for me. He's a young guy. He actually directed the first Ebony Hustle. And I want to at least give them the opportunity to get a seat at the table. Now, what they say when they get to the table, it'll be on you. But I want you to get an opportunity to get a seat at the table so you can expand your brand and what you're trying to do.
And that's a good point. We used to do the same thing in the music industry when mentoring somebody there. But I'm curious, too, who's doing the editing?
I try to find people that I feel like that can understand the vision that I'm trying to really push. We do a lot of character breakdown and developing characters. So I have a full deck with characters, likes, dislikes, birthdays, signs, and everything. And so I sit down with editors and talk about it to see their insight on how they see characters, because a lot of it has to do with the shots they pick and the flow that they go with. I can kind of tell them, but they have to be able to feel the story that I'm trying to tell. So I try to start really early in that process of talking to somebody and picking somebody so they have time to kind of think about it, meld in a system and kind of dream about it in a way. So when they go to actually see the footage, they can say, okay, I can see where this is going and I can, do a better edit.
No, and I can completely understand that, especially when you're working with a story like that. But I'm curious about some of the special effects. I mean, it's not like an action movie with special effects, but there are some cool little tidbits here or there. For example, there are FaceTime calls. So when someone's doing a FaceTime call, how are we making that happen?
So, you know, the fun thing about it, the first Ebony Hustle, we shot it during COVID. And so we had to do a lot of FaceTime. I in some essence, when I look back, I think we did too many. But we had to do that just because of distancing and, you know, and not having so many people in the same room, you know. So a lot of times we do green screen. So we green screen the phones that we're using and superimpose it onto whatever product we're doing. If it's a TV or if it's the cell phone or it's the computer, we superimpose it onto it. But most of the time, you know, we just, you know, do green screen because it's just a little easier to go and place it versus trying to, you know, synchronize it. It's a little bit too much.
Again, makes sense. I mean, there's also, I mean, you're not just doing FaceTime, you're doing text messages that pop up on the screen. Are those like overlays in the software after the fact?
Yeah, so once the movie's all edited and you know everybody's happy with the, you know, picture lock, and then we'll go back in, and a lot of that stuff over time I have learned out of necessity to create those overlays. I've just learned how to do it because it's very expensive, and I try to stay within a certain budget, and so I've just learned how to do it just out of necessity. It's not that complicated. It really is not. Over a period of time, I've learned to understand what needs to get done.
Yeah. So now I understand that. I mean, all this stuff makes sense. It's just without experiencing it, it's kind of hard to know how it comes together. Also in this film too, you were filming in or on location. So for example, you were filming in a park. Do you have to get licensing to film in a park?
Yeah, so you need all the papers and a permit. The thing about it is at least once a week, somebody sends me their movie and they want me to help them get distribution at least once a week. And I look at the movie and it looks real great. And I start asking them about paperwork. You'll be really surprised how many people just get up one day and decide they're going to do a movie and they have no paperwork. And then the hardest thing is to get people to sign paperwork afterwards.
Right.
Hard. It's not impossible. I have done it. It is not impossible, but it's really hard. It is better for you to kind of figure that stuff out. And even with releases for locations and cars and things of that sort, people just don't spend the time doing it. They just don't put in the effort to do it. And so later on, when they actually need it, it's kind of like, oh, either I got to track this person down or I got to figure out somebody if they'll sign it or not.
After the fact, they want money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, well, you know, so I'd rather have the argument now than later.
Right. If I ask you beforehand, you're going to say, oh, yeah, that'd be great to be in a movie. You don't need to pay me.
Yes. Yes.
But let's talk more about the storytelling. So how important is it not only to have a good story, but you actually have music that supports the story? So how important is story to you?
Well, it's very important because I want people to be able to emotionally connect with the movie, but music is a conduit that gets people to do that. So if the song is kind of talking about what's happening, then people can connect with it better. So music is very, very, very important. I spend a lot of time, probably more time and more money than I need to, on the music because I want it to be right. We've released full soundtracks, even composer soundtracks for it. The one reason why I do this, and I try to stress filmmakers to do this, is that if you do a soundtrack, the Amazon Musics, the iTunes, it's an ad. So they like the music. Wow, that's interesting. Let me go see what's that movie about. It's a free ad. Free ad across all these music streaming platforms. And a lot of times filmmakers, I try to stress them to do this. Sometimes they don't want to go. It's a hassle, you know. I mean, because we own music, I have the publishing, and it's a lot. But I guarantee you, if you put the effort for it, it will pay off. You're looking at a whole audience of people who are not really paying attention. They listen to music, but they see that album cover and they say, oh, that's interesting. Original music soundtrack. Oh, this is a movie. Let me see what it's about.
Well, that's a good point. You talk about it being yeah, exactly. You talk about it being a movie soundtrack and it leads people to your movie. Great. But you also mentioned it's an original movie soundtrack. So are you hiring musicians to perform for the movie specifically? Yes.
So I go out and commission songs. I have a music supervisor I work with, and so he writes a lot of stuff. His name is Calvin Kosher. He's a talented artist. He does a lot of the writing for the stuff we do and finding other artists. I try to really focus on indie artists. We've done some big name artists. We got a movie that's coming out a later year that we did with some big names. But most of the time I try to find really good, strong indie artists who are looking to really kind of expand their brand. I tell them, this is not going to make you a millionaire, but I guarantee you it will give you way more exposure than you had last week. It definitely is going to put a lot of eyes on you and a lot of attention.
So are you paying them for the use of their music?
Yes. Yeah, so all the music belongs to us. And so we commission, we pay for the studio time, we pay for everything. We pay for the whole gambit of it. I'm not paying them, I don't want artists to come to me and say, hey, I'm not paying you absorbing amounts of money. But we're paying something fair to get you to do it because we're covering all the costs. And all you have to do is pretty much just come to the studio. And a lot of times, depending on what type of song it is, we've already have a written song. And all you have to do is just pretty much just perform it to get what we need done.
Now, do you do this to avoid having to go the traditional route through a publishing company and get licensing?
Yes. Yes, unequivocally, yes. Because trying to license stuff is a pain in the butt. Oh, yeah, and I'm subjected to someone who's saying to me, so when we go to writing, people like saying, oh, we need this James Brown song. I'm going to get somebody to do a James Brown type song, and it keeps the control of the music. So if there's a problem with the distributor and they're having a problem with the music, I sign off on all of the music. And so there's a problem, I can come say, hey, here's all the paperwork. This song belongs to us, So yes, definitely it keeps us from having to deal with the whole licensing music thing.
I understand the value in it for sure. But what I'd like to know is, you have a background in music. So how is that background in music able to support you in film?
Well, it helps because now, I understand the contracts. I understand all that stuff. And a lot of times when I used to work in music, I worked on the label side. I've also worked on, I've managed artists too. And I went to this conference one time. This is years ago. This is back when artists was complaining about getting bad deals, signing bad deals. They signed these deals and they're like, oh, they did us wrong. And I went to a conference one time. People didn't like it. And I said, let me tell you something. This is a business. And if you can spend $200-$300 to get an attorney to review a contract, you can't really get upset with them. I'm not saying the label should, you allow them to take advantage of you, but it's a business. And if I send somebody a contract, it's going to be slated toward what I'm trying to do. I'm open to change. If I offer you something, I said 5 cents and you come back, I want 10. Okay, we can negotiate. But not getting somebody to do the business part and check that stuff, that is your fault.
Yeah. a record label is nothing but a bank. You're just making a business deal with them to loan you money.
That's right. I know people think artists understand that you just signed a loan. This is what it is. It's a loan. We believe in you. A little bit.
We believe in the fact that you'll be able to pay us that money back.
That's right. Pay it back, and I'll let you give it a little bit. But I tell artists, when you go sign deals at major labels, what they're doing is they're going to put you in their machine and make you famous. So you have to make money off the fame. Not necessarily the music, but make money off the fame. They put you in this whole factory of all these people, publicists and A&R people, and everybody's coming in for doing stuff. Make money off the fame. You're not going to make money off of the music and really not streaming, but you're going to make money off the fame that they're going to give you.
Right. Yeah, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's the money that you're going to make from the endorsements outside of your industry.
Yes.
So you have a background in A&R. Can you tell us what that role is like?
So once again, in my career, I wasn't necessarily trying to do music. That wasn't necessarily what I was trying to do. I was doing music videos, and this producer, he had a deal in a management company, and he was like, hey, you'd be interested in coming on and being a publicist. And I was like, I don't know anything about being a publicist. The guy's name was Steve Hurley. He's a Grammy-nominated producer and everything. His most notable fame is that he was the first person to take a house track in the UK and cross over to the mainstream. Nobody had ever done that before. It was considered house, and it was over there. It was never considered mainstream. So that was like his biggest claim to fame. And so I ended up starting as a publicist, but I ended up being a director of international A&R, running his offices, agents in the UK and in Japan. And so I learned a lot about music from him. Tons about how music works, how the business works, who do I need to talk to when I need certain things done. I didn't know that part. So it opened up my eyes to a lot of things. After he stopped doing his management company and I went back to doing music videos, I knew everybody at the label who commissioned music videos. Music videos are not about how great you are as a director. It's about trust. And going back to my whole idea about labels being corporate entities, they got 401k and PTO, and they don't want to do nothing that's going to mess their job up. Because back in the day, the labels used to give you the money. They don't do that anymore. This a whole problem. Back in the day, you go do the music videos and they give you all the money and
right.
they wait for you to come back. So they needed the people that they could depend on that actually was going to bring something back when they have that meeting on Tuesday to show what you've been doing. Then he's like, hey, this is my video versus I gave this guy his money and he just kind of ran away with it.
We never heard from him again.
Yeah, you didn't heard of it. It disappeared somewhere. So it was about trust. People trust me that, I will bring some back for them to do. So I was able to do a lot of videos with that.
Well, you say do a lot. I mean, you've done over 200 music videos. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
One or two.
When I started doing music videos, we were doing it in film. Like you got to get film and develop, and we have to do that because I come from film. That is my process. I think a lot of times some of young filmmakers miss the process. I come from where we had to go doing music videos for little to no money, and we were like trying to time out how much this is, how much can we shoot with this? This guy had this 35 BL camera that he would let us rent for the weekend for $250. As I think about it now, it blows my mind. When I was really doing a lot of music videos, I'm going to tell you this one reason why I've done so much. So do you remember the book they called the 411? It was the 411. It lists all the labels and everything, the telephone numbers.
Oh, yeah.
The addresses.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I would get that book and I would start on Monday and say, okay, how much money do I want to make? And I would cold call all these labels and I would tell them, how many videos are you going to do this year? They say, I'm going to do 7. I said, if you give me 3, I'm going to charge the same for all of them. No cost. I mean, there's some caveats to it, but no cost overruns. Doing these videos with labels, a lot of cost overruns because it happens. But I'm not going to charge you anything. I was charging people like $20,000 for a music video, no cost overrun. So you're going to give me 3. And it blew my mind because I would fax people contracts. They would sign it. They would wire me money. Every time I tell people that story, it just blows my mind that people would actually wire me money. I don't even know you.
Right.
So a lot of things have changed since that time, but I was really focused on this is what I wanted to do. And so once I figured that out, I just was all the way in.
I laugh because I used to have one of those. What challenges have you had with technology over the years?
So I used to have 2 16 millimeter cameras that I would lease out to this company in Chicago, but it starts to wean off, and it was kind of like nobody was using them. It took me a while to accept the fact that people were going to start doing digital. Life is about moments. So I remember when labels used to call me all the time about doing music videos. So Cash Money had called me. This is before they got to deal with Motown. So they called me and they was like saying, hey, we need somebody. They saw your work and they said, we want you to do some music videos, but we're not doing any videos in film. We're doing it all on video. And I said, okay, fine. I got off the phone. It's like, and I never called it back. And like a couple of weeks later, they got the deal. And so I was like, so it took a while for me to accept that there was a change coming because I was just,
right.
I'm a film guy. Film has a lot of depth and character. There's a lot of things, the beauty of film, the richness of the color. And I was really surprised that people would actually accept it. It's like, you don't see the difference? Be like, no, I don't see the difference. It's like, So once people were able to accept it and it became standard, there was no reason to spend the money on film anymore.
I mean, working in the music industry for 30 years, I started when we were recording on 2-inch tape. And through the years, that has transitioned into the world of digital and recording on hard drives and things like that. Mm-hmm. They both have their characteristics.
Yes.
But with all your experience, not just in the music industry, but in the film industry, I mean, what's your craziest behind the scenes moment?
Okay. I was working on a movie. I was just producing. I wasn't directing. And I try to give, directors their space, because I don't want to, I'll say, Ling, we have a conversation. Obviously, we on the same page of what we need to do, but I try to give them that space to do. And so I was doing other stuff and I came out of my office and I went to go to see how they were doing on the set. And I'm sitting there and they like cut and everybody's like talking, resetting and everything. And then the first AC said, scene 7, take 27. I said, take 27? It just kind of blew my mind. I said, you know what? Let me just walk away.
Right.
Because whatever they got here going, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So I wasn't expecting. I expect them to say like 5 or 6 at the most. But 27, that was a little bit too much for me. I think that's probably the funniest thing that I've seen in a really long time.
So back to your career, how did it feel the first time you came across success, and what was that success?
Anytime somebody looks at my stuff, I look at it as being success. And so I don't necessarily measure success in like any monetary number or streams or anything like that. I'm always humbled that people actually look at it. And then on top of that, they have an opinion about it. I did an interview some years ago, and the interviewer asked me, why am I a filmmaker? And a lot of times you have this canned response of why it is. But for some reason, the universe put something different in my heart. And this day I said, because I want to live forever. That's my goal. I think I look at old black and white movies all the time. And I think about, at that moment, I have a slice into what they're understanding and what they're thinking at that moment, why they decided to do this, they did this, they made these decisions. I would like to be, whatever media is now into in the future, that somebody can go back and look and say, that's crazy, I don't like this or I like this, but they're talking about it. And so I'm being reborn at that particular moment in that second. So when I see an old movie, I'm on the other side of the camera. I'm in that person's mind of why they decided to do this. It inspires me to come up with different stuff creatively. It gives me different perspectives that I did not have before. But it allows me to live forever. And whenever somebody look at my stuff, they will be able to say, have an opinion about it. And that is probably the way I really look at success. It is great to get awards. It is great to, have the monetary success. But I went to talk to his university one time, particularly with Red All Over. And the professor, they were dissecting the movie, which is always fascinating to me when they do that. So they dissecting the movie, and one student gets up and talk about all these families that's in the movie. And I was sitting there while she's saying it, and I'm saying, she's like about 4 or 5 families. And I'm saying to myself, 4 or 5 families, what? And then she started to name families. I didn't think that was being a family, but it just amazed me that they sat there and thought about that. And they were having the serious discussions about gun violence and mental health and why people do the things they did. And I'm just fascinating because all that stuff I was not thinking about when I was writing it.
That's insane to me.
And so it's even now. So when I do stuff now, I try to think about that because people are going to dissect it and they're going to have some kind of discussion about it. So I try to be more conscious about it now. But back then I wasn't thinking about that. When I did Red All Over, I had done a whole bunch of commercials and I had done some music videos and things of that sort. And I wanted to do a feature. But back in the day when you wanted to do institutional financing, you get what they call a completion bond. And the only way you can get a completion bond is that you have to have done a movie.
Right. Of course.
And so what I did was I sat down and thought to myself, what can I do? So I started going to media companies and record labels and say, I can show you how to introduce your music to a whole set of people who would never listen to the music. Because like if somebody go on iTunes or Amazon and they like country music, they're pretty much going to stay right there. They're not going to go to hip hop. They're not going to go to rock. They're going to go there. But I can create a social thing, wrap the music around it, and now you have a revenue stream of people who, unbeknownst to them, that now listen to your movie and now fans of your movie. That was during the DVD time. So I was able to convince people to do that. It wasn't easy because they thought it was a good idea, but they didn't know anything about it. So they was afraid until I eventually found somebody to say, okay, I'm going to ride with you and we're going to do this, And I tell filmmakers all the time, it's not about how great your product is. When somebody invests in your product, they're investing in you. They don't know about the storyline. They're looking at you that you can take them where they need to be and they're going to get a return.
Always comes down to the money. So, we talked about your success. What kind of setbacks have you had to deal with?
Well, a lot, but we're
give me one of them.
We're going to condense it down to some. So I think one of the biggest setbacks to have is the balancing of emotions. After I did Red All Over and everybody liked it and they were looking forward to coming out and everything, I got a divorce. Divorce is very debilitating. And that movie sat on my hard drive for a couple of years because emotionally I couldn't move past. When you get a divorce, it's like somebody's dying. Somebody died. And emotionally, I just couldn't do it. My peers and people around me, distributors company, like put this movie out and I couldn't do it, and I had to find that balance in my life to push forward. I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I'm also human too. I'm human and I'm frail to not always be the best that I could possibly be. And so I had to really overcome that. And during that time, I really didn't do anything else. I mean, I wrote stuff and, talked to people about doing stuff who were trying to convince me to do stuff, but I really didn't do anything. And I had to find a place out of that. I feel like my career suffered because I really wasn't putting, I did this great movie that I'm not putting out, and people are like, wow, you should have really, rode that all the way to something else. And I didn't do it because I just couldn't get past it, But once I was able to get past it, I was able to really do, because I did that movie, although it didn't come out in 2019, I did that movie like 2014, 2015.
So what's next for you?
So I have a feature that I'm directing in April in Orange, New Jersey called Balanced. Balanced is about a guy who's trying to start a mixed gender basketball league. This is loosely based off of a true story. There's actually a basketball league called the Global Mixed Gender Basketball League. It's where men and women play on basketball together. They have 9 teams around the country. Each one is owned by a celebrity or a comedian. Like the one in Houston is owned by Monique and her husband. The one in New Orleans is owned by Master P. He also is the president of the league. And the one in Miami is owned by Trick Day. So for all the 9 cities, they have a celebrity. And so this movie is loosely about how this guy starts. Then I got like 2 documentaries coming out this year. One is about the Tulsa riots. And then I have another one called Ballin' Abroad. This was shot in China a couple of years ago. It's about when professional basketball players go play overseas and the things that they deal with in China and Europe and things of that sort. So amongst other things, there's a lot of things happening. For the last couple of years, I've been actively working a lot to
so
try
that's
to
already
put
been
some
shot?
stuff out. Yes, all that stuff has been shot. It's all been shot.
I have to ask, challenges of filming in China. What kind of challenges did you have over there?
Let me put this the right way. They want to make sure that they're always put in the best possible light. And so they try to limit the things that you say and do and how you respond to things. And so there was a limited amount of people went over there. When they shot the stuff, I didn't see the stuff until they actually came back and, I put something together and then we kind of made some adjustments. But that is going to be released through Freestyle, which is Byron Allen's company. Later on this year.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. All right, sir. Well, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we take a moment to shine the light on somebody who's worked behind the scenes or somebody who may have supported you in some way. Do you have anybody you'd like to shine a little light on?
I want to shine a light on Victor L. Love. When I was doing Red All Over and I was trying to get talent to participate on it, I went to Victor because I knew that if he said yes, everybody else would say yes. And when I went to him about this character is an alcoholic, addict and everything. Victor's biggest claim was he did this movie with Oprah Winfrey, played Bigger Thompson in a movie with Oprah Winfrey. And a lot of times when people get those kind of opportunities, they usually get like television featured roles. And they kind of progressively get to that point. That didn't happen for Victor. Right out the bat, he got this big role. And a lot of times people don't know how to balance success and the fame that they get. He was doing really good and he spiraled all the drugs and the alcohol. And so when I went to him about doing this particular character, he said, I don't have that character nowhere in any of the things I've done. And I said, Victor, your life is that character. And so I'm always humble to him and I give him, because without him believing in what we were doing and believing in the project, I don't think I would have got all the other big name actors to actually be in the movie either.
A big thanks to John for taking the time to share his stories with us. And thank you for taking the time to hang with me here. As always, I really do appreciate it. If you could, please follow, share, and connect on all the socials. You could even tell a friend. I'd appreciate that too. You can do all this and find the links to everything mentioned over at jfranze.com/episode 56. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franze Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranze.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.